Welcome to Beyond the Brand, the podcast that takes you inside the world of franchising, brought to you by Business Alliance Incorporated. We're here to share real stories, expert insights, and strategies to help you navigate the franchise industry with confidence. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome. This is Heath Turner with BAI and continuing on our Beyond the Brand series, where I get the opportunity to sit down with franchisees from our various franchise partners. And today I'm very happy to be joined by Amada Senior Care franchisee in Detroit, Michigan, Gregory Hines. And Greg started as a franchisee back in 2014. So we'll get to hear Greg's story, and hopefully that gives anyone who's listening a better understanding of the Amada Senior Care franchise brand overall. Greg, first off, I just want to thank you for cutting some time out today, sitting down with me and sharing a little bit of your story. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Heath. It's always fun talking about what we do about the system and our journey through the system. So we appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that you gave us the opportunity to talk about it today.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear. And I like to kick off these conversations just getting to know a little bit more about you. So I'm curious, prior to 2014, what was your career before becoming a franchisee? What profession were you in?
I am through and through a sales guy. I'm a salesperson. So prior to making the decision that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, pharmaceutical sales and medical device sales for
Okay.
2 decades. I was a guy who was in the hospital operating rooms, assisting with surgeries, mostly in the cardiac rooms, and again, did pharmaceuticals for quite a while also.
Okay. And then what was going on that made you think now might be the time to look into a business for myself? What started you down that path?
Yeah, that's an incredibly good question. And I think a lot of times the answer is what motivates most of us who decide to go the route of entrepreneurs. When I was particularly when I was in medical devices, at least the last 8 years of that, I got so incredibly busy and successful that I just did not control my life anymore. I was on call. I had a young kid at the time. I would get calls, Heath, at midnight saying that you need to go to Indiana or go to Ohio and cover a case. And that became difficult. I lived on a pager.
Yeah.
And because I was blessed to be successful, the pressure continued to mount year after year as my goals would increase. And that wasn't a problem. The bigger problem was that it was just really difficult to maintain life balance. So either if you wanted to continue to be successful, you were going to do 10, 12-hour days some days in the medical devices side. And so
Yeah.
your family lacked attention and time. And that really motivated me to kind of look at other opportunities, particularly those from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Yeah. And then was franchising top of mind for you, or how'd you find your way to the franchising world and then particularly with Amada?
Sure. I didn't know. Here is where my mindset was. And I do have a business partner. So it was my
Mhm.
business partner, and his name is Kevin. He's actually a friend from college. And so we've known each other since we were 19. And he was pharmaceuticals at the time too. And our conversations were, because he was going through something similar in terms of the life balance situation, our conversation was, we've got to find something different to do that allows us at least the same level of income, preferably
Mhm.
more, and gives us a greater opportunity to spend time with our families or to do the things that we wanted to do. And
Yeah.
so having that conversation, we really didn't know what it was. We didn't know if it was something that we would create on our own. We didn't know if it was a franchise. We didn't know what the industry was. But
Yeah.
what we started looking at, Heath, was we started looking at different opportunities, and what we uncovered was this senior space. We recognized that there were so many different opportunities in the senior space that might be where we wanted to go. And so we started looking at those opportunities, found home care, and then narrowed down on home care. So the decision of whether we do franchising or independent, we still hadn't decided until we started making calls to different franchisors.
Okay.
and really seeing the difference between the independent side and what a franchise could potentially do for you.
And then Amada in particular, what was it that really stood out to you about this brand? What piqued your interest and made that decision for you?
Yeah, it became really clear, first off, that franchising made sense. Because after we started doing our diligence, what we recognized was that it'd be a pretty significant capital investment, we thought, if we wanted to gain the level of success that we thought we could. And so franchising made sense because we knew that there'd be support. We knew that we would not have to reinvent the wheel. And so we started talking to different franchisors. What we recognized, to be quite honest, was that home care was similar. It didn't really matter which company you talked to. It was commoditized, right? But what we saw with the model was that there was a difference in terms of how they niched the business. What we saw with the model was that nobody else had talked about veterans and being really strong and really good in terms about the benefits that you could offer the veteran community.
Yeah.
Nobody else talked about long-term care insurance like at all, actually. And Amada did that. And we thought that if we had those two advantages, if we had those two advantages from a commoditized market, it would give us a greater opportunity to gain the level of success that we thought that we could and deserve to get.
So those big differentiators are kind of what made that decision easier for you.
Absolutely, without question, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. And so you make the leap, you become franchisees, and you could probably answer this for yourself and your business partner. But I'm just curious for you as a new franchisee back in 2014, what skill sets that you already had? You said you had really strong sales acumen and things like that. What do you think helped you the most as a new franchisee that you already possessed?
I think particularly in this industry, I think it was a sales background. I had some limited sales management skills. I had a lot of sales skills. What we found out is that for those franchisees in home care, if you were able to market and if you were able to develop relationships, it made one component of the business somewhat easier. And that was the referral side, right?
Yeah.
So I, along with my business partner, were able to do that very effectively.
Okay.
Now, here's what we recognized after we had been in business for around 6 months, that there was some gaps in our skill sets that we needed to fill because neither of us had run a business before. My partner was in banking and he had worked from a management standpoint in banks, so he understood that. But we both knew that there were still things that we needed to get better at. And so even though we can probably say that we were really good at the sales and marketing side, we needed some help in other areas. And one of the things that I did is that there's a program across the country. It's called Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. It's almost like an executive MBA program.
Okay.
It's put on by Babson College, your local university, and it's sponsored by Goldman Sachs. I was part of one of the cohorts here. And so that allowed me to fill some of those gaps from running a business and from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Yeah.
We really needed. So that helped, even though we had some strengths. I think one of the challenges that we talk about when we're able to talk to, or at least when I'm able to talk to folks about starting a business or a franchise, is that make sure that you have the skill sets necessary to help to create the success that you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where what BAI or brokers do is they try to help make sure their candidates have the skill sets necessary for the businesses they're putting in front of them. And then was there any kind of play to your strengths between you and your business partner? Was there anything that he did better that you let him handle and then you had your own strengths? Was there any separation there?
Here's why that's such a critical question, and I'm glad you asked that, Heath, because if you have business partners, I think it has to be a balance and never a fight between allowing the person who has the skills to do a certain thing to do them. In our case, he was a financial guy, and to this day he is. And so he understood the books and did the financial part and was better able to do that than I. And so turned all that over to him.
Okay.
From a sales standpoint, we both had those skill sets. from a just running the business standpoint. We learned that together as I was a part of the Goldman Sachs program.
Yeah.
Obviously, that information was funneled to him. And again, the reason that's such a critical question is that from a partnership standpoint, I think where you were going with this is that there has to be folks who have skills put into positions to use the skills that they have to help to make your business grow into scale.
Exactly. Yeah. I've interviewed a lot of franchisees over the last couple of years. And whether it's a husband-wife team or just business partners or father-son, mother-daughter, whatever, they all were able to recognize, hey, you're better at this than I am. And this is probably my strong suit. So let's divide and conquer a little bit. And then we can hire the other roles that we need help with. And it seems in the success cases that I've talked through with people, that's the conversation you always have to have when you have some kind of partnership in business, is have that transparency and honesty. So that's what I was curious about. And outside of furthering your education with that program, from the franchisor's corporate standpoint and the support and training they provide, what did you find you and your business partner were relying on Amada, the franchisor, for help with the most?
Yeah, we know is that in the first year of business, at least for us, it's really the most critical time because you are not afforded the opportunity to make a whole lot of mistakes, right?
Yeah.
One mistake, potentially all of your investments. You can do 1,000 things right, but if you do one thing, that could sink you.
Yeah.
What we relied upon was a lot of the support for those issues that came up that we just really didn't know how to get through. So learning the business wasn't that difficult. Home care is not that difficult. We relied on Amada if we had particular problems. Here's an example of one of them. We had a contract with the Detroit VA where we had challenges with getting paid, to be quite honest with you. And we just really didn't know how to work that situation out. So we worked with Amada and those folks there and had folks fly here and teach us different things and work with us just to get us through that situation. I think that was critically important.
Yeah.
Let me go back again to just tag on to another question that you asked. And that question was, why a franchise system?
Yeah.
So this kind of ties in. The third reason, along with the differentiation between Amada and the other franchisees and all else that I talked about, was we really appreciated the people. That was the tipping point for us. Part of the decision that we made to be not just Amada franchisees, but franchisees in general was the people. When we met them, we recognized the fact that we were on the same page from a goal standpoint, from a value standpoint, from a work ethic standpoint. And we thought that if it worked from a relational standpoint, all those things, then we had no doubt that if we really needed the support, we would be confident that these people that we signed this contract with for 10 years and decided to pay royalties to for the level of support that we needed. Going back to the question, we found once we got in trouble, not in trouble, but once we had to work through some issues that we didn't know how, we found that same group of people who shared values and goals and work ethics that we did came out and helped us. And that really moved our business forward.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. And they've probably run into those issues or had other franchisees run into those issues, and then they can use that experience to help you. And like you said, that's a great reason when you're looking at why a franchise. I heard one brand say, let us make the mistakes you haven't made yet. And then when you make the mistakes we've made in the past, we know how to help you get through them. That's a great example of that. I love that. And early on, I can only imagine how many different hats you got to wear in a home care franchise in the early days. But what did that day in the life look like for you? You know, maybe combine it. What were all the roles and responsibilities you and your partner were handling? But I'm just curious, early on, this is what the day in the life looks like. And then as we grew, here's the kinds of responsibilities we're able to allocate resources for a little bit more. So early on, what was that typical day in the life like for you?
Sure. Early on, it was a lot of work. It really was. We
Mhm.
were very intentional that for about a year, he and I would literally, we wanted to do everything.
Yeah.
Everything from marketing, everything from operations, everything from HR. We were intentional about doing it, the two of
Hmm.
us. And it was simply because we recognized the fact early on that we needed to learn and to understand and to develop a heart for the business.
Yeah.
And so our days were long days. They were sometimes 10, 12, 13, 14-hour days because we needed to understand what we had gotten ourselves into. And we needed, and here's a more important reason for that, Heath. If we did not understand our vision, if we didn't understand what our goals were, it would have been impossible for us to share that with those people that we brought in. We had to develop a passion for it because
Yeah.
in order for us to get to the next phase and to scale,
Mhm.
if we couldn't detail that and explain that to the folks that we brought into our business, we didn't necessarily think that we'd get to the level of growth and success that we saw for ourselves.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, early on, it's a lot of wearing different hats and it's probably a little chaotic, but what do you think was the key early on for you guys to really grow the business and scale? What was the most important component to your business early on?
We were both, I think what helped us is that we were both aligned. What's really interesting is that, and I'll never forget this, that we decided that for us, September 1st would be the last day that we worked for our respective companies. So we forgo any paychecks. We burned our ships and left everything behind, knowing that we had to be into the business 100%, 150%.
Yeah.
And because we did that, I think that was just incredibly instrumental in the focus that we had and the desire that we had to really do a good job and to win and to be successful. I think that was really for us the most important thing, that from the beginning, we knew that it had to be 150%, 200% or nothing.
Yeah.
And that's how we work the business. And I think for us, that was the most important thing that we recognized and knew and even did.
And then in terms of the operations of the business, do you think the most important factor for your operation was finding the right labor? Was it making the right referral partnerships? Like what factored into the growth you saw in your business? Like when did it really take off?
Yeah, we took off mid first year. And it was because, again, from a home care standpoint, home care is marketing, right?
Yeah.
It's going out and developing referral partners and it's gaining contracts if there are opportunities for the federal government. In our case, that was a VA. What really helped us take off was our ability to go out into market and to develop referral partners and to gain contracts. Within 10, 12 months, we had gained contracts with both the VAs and the Detroit metro area. So that really helped. But again, based on relationships that we had developed. I think that the marketing part and the relationship building part really helped us to scale.
Yeah.
And then after we started developing those relationships, business started to come in for us.
Okay. And you've probably gotten this question a lot in validation calls and things like that. But when everyone thinks of senior care, the first word that comes to mind is the labor. So to find and retain the right caregivers is kind of always the key ingredient. So how did you manage, the challenges you can run into with labor, finding the right people as caretakers, and what's the culture you've created to retain them? I'm curious kind of what your philosophy is when it comes to the labor needed for this business.
Yeah, it's a tough business from a standpoint of those folks who go out and provide daily care for us. These are people, most women in most instances for us. These are women somewhere between the ages of 25 and 50, and they have life challenges, and sometimes they don't have cars that work very well, and they have
Mhm.
kids that they may be sole providers for. What's helped us is for us to recognize just that.
Yeah.
that they deserve a fair wage, that they deserve to be recognized as often as they do good things. They deserve to be treated fairly. They deserve to understand that they are part of a team, not just employees.
Yeah.
They deserve to know what our vision is and for them to have the opportunity to agree to buy into the vision. And so we do all those things. We honor them. We have programs where we give them pins for success or a number of hours that they've worked. We give them gift cards when they've done extraordinary things or sometimes just even ordinary things. When our caregivers come into this office, it is a celebration. We celebrate them. Once they walk in the door and we see them, we honor them, we celebrate them, and we recognize that they have the hardest job in the world, in the country, and they should be rewarded. So we do those things in order to retain our caregivers. It's just hard now to hire caregivers. The difficulty is retaining caregivers and retaining the good ones. And we think that in us doing these things, that it helps us to retain the number of caregivers that we have.
Yeah. So creating the right culture, that's the key to make them feel
Absolutely
appreciated. I love that. I love how you look at that. And I was just curious where the business is at today. So how many caregivers do you employ? Like ballpark, how many clients you help on any given month? Just curious, what you've grown it to over these last 11 years.
Sure. Right now, we payrolled yesterday, as a matter of fact, I think 125 caregivers.
Okay.
And we're
Wow.
proud of that. We are super proud of the fact that we are hiring a lot of Detroiters who, but for us, may not have work. And we want to continue to do that. We proudly take care of, and this is probably one of the most proudest things that I've ever done in my life. But right now, we proudly take care of about 60 veterans.
Oh,
and we take care of a total of around 90 clients.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that the veteran side's so driven for you guys because it's such an overlooked group of people that aren't treated as well as they should be. So I love that's a point of emphasis.
Yeah, and we talk about that. We boast about that, and that's again something that we proudly do, and we think we do well. From a revenue standpoint, we're probably in the 80th percentile.
Okay.
And we're not satisfied with that. We want to grow, we want to get bigger, we want to get better, but at the same time, we want to continue the level of service to all of our clients that doesn't go down as you get bigger. We want to continue to be a great service provider, regardless of revenue level, regardless of number of clients. That's part of the mission that we have.
Yeah, the quality of care is important. I think that's a good driving force. I think one of the most underrated aspects of becoming a franchisee that not a lot of people think about is when you join this franchise system, you're now surrounded and among people that are going through a lot of the same things you've experienced. And in these conversations with franchisees, I've learned so much about the inner franchisee culture. So I'm curious what that is like for Amada. How often do you communicate with other franchisees? What's the culture like among other folks that are in the system?
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's a lot of fun. From a sales standpoint, any company that I worked for, there was always a competition, right? You wanted to do things to stand out and above your counterparts and your colleagues. And that's a good thing, right? Competition is good.
Yeah.
We have competition at Amada. Everybody wants to be the number one franchisor, but at the same time, the spirit of cooperation, I think, here is greater than the spirit of competition.
Okay.
And that's really phenomenal because I've never seen that anywhere.
Yeah.
And I know that to be the case because my business partner and I were franchise mentors for years.
Okay.
For about 5-6 years, I can't remember. And so we would help other new franchisees grow and scale and things that they need to do. And at the same time, I was on the franchise advisory board. So I saw and understood how the system from a franchisee standpoint operated. And what I saw consistently, whether it was as an independent franchisee, whether it was my role as a franchise mentor, or even on the franchise advisory board, was that The spirit of cooperation is just incredible. Everybody wants everybody else to be successful. Everybody shares ideas. Everybody helps.
Yeah.
Uh, I can call, or any of my colleagues can call any one of us. And if we have questions, there is no hesitation that we'll get the help or will help those folks that call us. So it's just really cool. And I think even unique to some degree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. It's something I've learned in these conversations, how overlooked that aspect of the support is, that the network of franchisees around you are all so willing to help in a lot of these cases. So it's always nice to hear when there's a culture like that in place. And now looking ahead, like you said, you've still got goals you want to reach. There's still percentiles you want to be in. And so if you're looking ahead, 5-year plan for this business, where would you like to be in terms of full scale of caregivers, clients you're servicing, internal staff? Where do you see the business in 5 years, ideally?
I don't know if I do have numbers because we always plan. We work from a book called Traction. I'm sure you've heard of Traction.
Yeah, we give that to all of our brokers.
Yeah. So we work from there. So we've got numbers and goals and such. But I think more importantly for us, we want to be a self-managed company. We want to work less and accomplish more.
Yeah.
We think that we do that by having the right people, and those people taking ownership, and those people buying into the vision that we have. Because at the end of the day, I started this by talking about life-work balance issues.
Yes.
That's where we want to be. We want to be at a point where, because we have the who's, not the how. And I get this from a book by Dan Sullivan called Who, Not How. But because we've got the right who's, we, instead of working that 14-hour day that I talked about initially,
Yeah.
completely changes, and we're more effective because we've got the right people in place.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that is our goal. And we think if we can reach that by helping our people to see the vision and finding the right people and having those right people take ownership, then I think that we will have accomplished what it was that we set out to do.
And have you added just actual office staff and outside salespeople outside of the caregivers? What other team members do you have currently on staff?
Yeah, certainly. So right now, we've got 3.5 schedulers. And so
Okay.
for us, that's probably one of the jobs, because that in home care, that's the connect between our caregivers and our clients. 3.5 means that we've got one virtual,
Okay.
one VA scheduler, and 3 actual folks here. We've got an HR person who does all the recruiting and the interviewing and hiring and onboarding. We've got a clinical field supervisor who goes out and makes sure that our clients are getting what they need.
Mm-hmm.
That person makes sure that the caregivers are properly trained and getting the things that they need if they don't have those. We've got a couple nurses on staff. We don't have an office manager yet because there are 2 of us. We had an office manager and it just didn't work out. I suspect that we probably will at some point hire new, but Kevin and I have taken back that role. So it actually still works out without an office manager.
Okay.
We've got a social media person,
Okay.
and we also have what's called a placement rep. And that's a person who, if our clients no longer can benefit from someone coming into their home, but to live in a residence where they get care
Yep.
for them, our placement person finds that residence.
Okay. And is that because we have a couple franchise partners who that's all they do is that placement service? So similar to that, are you paid by the facility you place the client in by that facility?
Yes, so it's the
Okay.
same, absolutely the same concept.
Okay.
Is value is just another add-on service
Yeah.
that Amada provides to us. They taught us how to do the placement part, do the very same thing that a care patrol would do or any other that placement does.
Okay.
Our rep does that.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah, it's always good to have more revenue streams and more things you can do for a client.
Absolutely.
I've just got a couple more questions. As we discussed a little earlier when I talked to you the first time, we're the franchise brokerage company. So our brokers are working with clients that want to become franchisees. They just don't know what they want yet. And so if you put yourself in the shoes of a franchise consultant and you're working with a candidate interested in senior care, you're going to present Amada based on everything you know about the brand. How would you present this opportunity? What would be the highlights that you would tell every broker, hey, don't forget to mention this about the brand? It's something that makes it really unique.
I think I would start with those intangible things like the level of support that you get, not just from the system, but from the individual franchisees. I think that would be my starting point because that's so critically important.
Yeah.
I think I would also talk about the fact that there are several different revenue streams, whether it's placements, staffing, or just the home care side of it, that there's opportunity to make dollars with Amada several different ways. And they work for all of us.
Yeah.
I think I would also talk about the fact that the training that we receive at Amada is absolutely sufficient for us to meet whatever goals there are that we have for ourselves. It's
Yeah.
not business, nor is it a franchise that you necessarily have to have a PhD to do.
Yeah.
But it is a franchise, it is a business where you need to know what it is that you're doing. And Amada has a system in place, and it's called Amada University,
Okay.
that gets us really prepared to go out on the very first day and to be effective. Now, will you have questions after you've gone out? Absolutely, you will.
Yeah.
And that's where the support comes in. So I think that those would be the three things that I would really highlight if I were one to sell Amada as a franchise opportunity.
Those are great points, all of them. So yeah, thank you for that insight. And then my last question, when we started this conversation, you said it was really about work-life balance and something you can replace your income with, but have more time left over when you do that. And so looking forward 11 years, I know you worked really hard. And like you said, there were some really long days along the way, but do you feel like going the franchise ownership route and joining the team with Amada has fulfilled that vision you had for owning your own business?
Yeah, I think it was the best decision that I've ever made. It really was. Aside from marrying my wife, I think it was really the best decision because it's afforded me the opportunity to replace my income. It's afforded me the opportunity to invest in other things as a result of what the blessings of the business has offered. It's afforded me the opportunity to fulfill some of the dreams that I never thought I would fulfill. It's afforded me, Heath, the opportunity to meet some of the smartest people that I've ever worked with and to share ideas that are just absolutely unique and help me not just to grow financially, but also to grow as a person.
Yeah.
From a time standpoint, the reality, and I probably shouldn't share this, my business partner and I work on growing the business, not necessarily work in the business.
Right. Yep.
And that's a phenomenal concept. If you've been one of those folks who've worked 8, 12, 14, 16-hour days, that for us, it's not the same amount of time that we worked when we first started. It's fun days, it's leisurely days, and it's because we've got the right people in the right seats.
Yep.
And so we're just leadership, we're just visionaries, and we're doing the things to help to move Amada Metro Detroit or Amada Farmington Hills forward. And that's fun. That's when you start having fun in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a privilege you worked really hard for. So happy to hear you're getting to that lifestyle flexibility you dreamed of 11 years ago. And it's been an absolute pleasure hearing your story, Greg. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your day, sitting down and sharing this journey you've been on, and wishing you all the best and continued success as you keep going forward.
Thank you, Heath. It was my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
That's a wrap on this episode of Beyond the Brand, brought to you by Business Alliance Incorporated. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe and stay connected for more insights on franchising success. Until next time.